Hey there, everyone. It's Gigi Sober Sun. I'm at Henderson Beach State Park here on September the 5th. Just soaking up some of this beautiful views. It's a long way, man. I love it. Nothing built out here. Well, there's a little radar station, but it's awesome. September the 5th. One of the mottos of AA is first things first. This means that we should always keep in mind that alcohol is our number one problem. We must never let any other problem, whether of family, business, friends, or anything else, take precedence in our minds over our alcohol problem. As we go along in AA, we learn to recognize the things that may upset us emotionally. When we find ourselves getting upset over something, we must realize that it's a luxury we alcoholics can't afford. Anything that makes us forget our number one problem is dangerous to us. Am I keeping sobriety in first place in my mind? Wow, what a great reminder, because it's so easy to get distracted by the trials of life, and I say distraction for a reason, because that's a good reminder that if AA isn't the number one problem, then I can get distracted, slip into a state of dry drunkenness. In other words, my thinking becomes very black and white. It becomes very I can become very angry, and I can think one of two things: it's them, or it's me, rather than it's the disease. Okay? And I hope that makes sense, because it's easier for me to say that all the mistakes I've made in my life were because of my alcoholism. Now, that some may hear that and say, "Oh, you're just passing the buck." Well, it's easier to do that. It's easier for me as a human being to say, I got faked out by the disease of alcoholism. That speaks to me in first person singular pronouns with a Midwest accent. Sounds distinctively like me, and I just got faked out this time. And the only way I can tell the difference between my own conscience and the disease of alcoholism is it loving? Is it kind? Is it tolerant? And every time it's not, it's the disease. Oh, come on. I hadn't really even thought of it that way before. But it's so true. Right? But it sounds just like me. And then when I own that, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, in that becoming the observer of our thoughts. Well, our thoughts aren't always our thoughts. They're served up to us through our flesh, which is our mind. Our brain is part of the flesh that's referred to in the New Testament of the Bible. The Apostle Paul talks about the flesh a lot. But it's also, I personify it as the disease of alcoholism that's trying to kick my butt whether I pick up a drink or not. But that's the ultimate goal, is for me to drink again and die or kill myself or kill somebody else, whether it's drunk driving or in a rage, while I'm drunk. And so as mellow as I like to think I am, and as mellow as so many people have told me I am over the years, especially, one guy that was trying to get me to drink again was like, you were a fun drunk, you were a mellow drunk. Oh yeah, tell that to my room, that, when I was in Korea, I couldn't find something and I was half lit on Jack and Mountain Dew. That was way before the old vodka and Red Bull days. I was drinking Jack and Mountain Dew. And I tore up my room, punched holes in the walls, and I would have gotten in big trouble for that business if it wasn't for my Adashi. Adashi stands for Mr. It's kind of like the equivalent of Mr. in English language. When I was living in Korea, we called an Adashi and Ajima. If you had a female, basically housekeeper, she was just called Ajima, and male was called Adashi. So anyway, he cleaned it up before I came back to work on Monday. And so, and I didn't have a roommate at the time. I was in between roommates. Thank God. Because, I pushed over a wall locker. A big wall locker. And yanked everything out of it. Ripped things off the wall. Punched holes in the wall. When I came back on Monday, I worked from 3 to 11. When I came back to get dressed for work, because I'd been downtown all weekend, Adashi had it all cleaned up. Back to the way it was. And I gave him more than a month's pay. Almost a month's pay on top of that. Because I knew I left it in a state, and he made it spotless. Crazy. Anyway, prayer for the day. Meditation for the day. Spiritual progress is the law of your being. Try to see around you more and more of beauty and truth, knowledge and power. Today, try to be stronger, braver, more loving as a result of what you did yesterday. Yes. This law of spiritual progress gives meaning and purpose to your life. Always expect better things ahead. You can accomplish much good through the strength of God's Spirit in you. Never be too discouraged. The world is sure to get better in spite of setbacks of war, hate, and greed. Be part of the cure of the world's ills rather than part of the disease. And that's it. That's really what it's all about. Not what it's all about, but it's being grateful for having been rescued from a life of miserable alcoholism, active alcoholism, should compel us to give it away, and not just show up at meetings and tell my story, that kind of thing, but to put a happy spin on it, if you will, for lack of a better term, to just continue to be a bright spot in people's lives. It doesn't mean try to be good. It means get out of yourself and be a blessing to others. There are things we have to do, right? Like, for example, cleaning up my house so that when I have guests over, they feel welcome, right? Like if I have family over or something like that, and they're going to spend the night, and I don't make it the bed for them. That's happened to me before. It's like, I've driven. This was in-laws' house. I've driven several hundreds of miles to a family member's house, and we get there sort of late in the day or whatever, and they're not prepared for us. And there was no excuse. There was no, oh, I worked all day, apologize. But you've known we're coming, you know? And so you want to, you've known we were coming for a month or whatever, and I'm not trying to make it about me. But that I know that feeling, and I don't want anybody else to ever feel that way, So yeah, sometimes I might tear around at the last minute and throw things in closets, kind of thing. But I want people to feel welcome. And so there's times when, I don't have, I could be out being of service to other people, but I could also need to be home at times to arrange my house and clean up my room and things like that, so that I can go out, clean up my room. That's a Jordan Peterson quote. Clean your room. He's got a book called 12 Rules for Living, or 12 Rules for Life, and the number one thing is clean up your room. And that does take effort, but it also makes it to where at least my living space is a sanctuary for me and my guests. And that's it seems like I'm digressing, I understand, but really it is. I'm saying that there are times when we have to focus on the background stuff that's important but not urgent, so that we can be of service to others. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may keep progressing in life, in the better life. I pray that I may be part of the forces for good in the world. Yes and amen. And I love when it talks about the last sentence of the first 164 pages of the big book, where it talks about trudging the road of happy destiny. Some people misread it or misquote it, and they say the road to happy destiny. No, the trudging of the road is happy destiny, the road of happy destiny. So keep on keeping on, folks. I love you. Look up, aim up, rise up.